All right, welcome everybody, and thank you for tuning in today. You are listening to the Adam Messer Show here on WRUU, LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul, and I have my special guest is with me, not in person in the studio, but in spirit here in the studio, Nicholas Kaufman. Nicholas, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Adam. I'm really excited to be here.
And it looks like you've got a new book coming out in a couple of days.
Yes, it is just a couple of days. October 5th is the pub date. That's this coming Tuesday. And it's called The Hungry Earth. It's a brand new novel and the start of a new series. And I'm hoping that it'll catch fire.
I'm excited to have you here and talking with your new book. Sebastian, will you take it away for us? All right, this is Sebastian Messer, everybody, playing some live music here in the studio. Awesome. Thank you, Sebastian. That was great.
That was great.
We have Nick. Do you mind if I call you Nick, or do you want me to call you Nicholas?
Nick is absolutely fine.
Oh, great. Thank you. So we can get the formalities out of the way, everybody. Nick, we have this really cool. It's a audio arts engineering soundboard, and I think I'm not really sure, but it's like a heavy duty, wood based model. For the soundboard, but one of the things is weird that I have to port the phone call through, but then I have to put it on speaker so that my guest can actually hear him playing.
Oh wow!
So you'll get the full nice recording version of it on the podcast. So
okay, no, I could hear it pretty well on the phone too, and I think he did a great job.
Yeah, I love it. So Nick, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and talk a little bit about your new book, The Hungry Earth?
Sure, yeah, no problem. Geez, where to start? I'm a 52-year-old author living in Brooklyn, New York. I write mostly horror and dark fantasy. And I guess I've been writing professionally since the year 2000, which means that I'm in my 21st year of being a professional writer, which is just unbelievable to me.
Oh, congratulations on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do you know, I know some people from up there. I've never met them in person, but do you know Carol Geisander?
I do know Carol. I know her very well.
How about Ellen Datlow?
I know Ellen as well.
And how about Teal James?
Oh, yeah. I know TJ.
Oh my gosh, right? He's awesome. So I know all of them through the Horror Writers Association.
Oh, fantastic.
Because I'm a member as well.
It's a big city here, but it's really the writing community. We all know each other. All our paths have crossed at some point.
I want to get up there. I want to get up there and meet all y'all. I know
that would be wonderful.
With the pandemic, it's kind of wound down a little bit, but I know that they do these get-togethers. And yes. I would love to be just in the air with that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And if you need it, we have a very uncomfortable airbed we can offer you.
I can sleep on the floor. I don't care. I'll bring some books as a pillow. So you're up in Brooklyn.
Yes.
You started writing and professionally like 21 years ago?
That's right, but
wow.
That's not when I first started writing. Of course, I've been writing ever since I was in grade school. I can remember, I was not a great student because I was always in my imagination, and I think that's probably a story that a lot of writers share. But I can remember one time, it must have been fourth or fifth grade, I was sitting in class, obviously not paying attention because I was writing a story in my notebook, and the teacher saw me writing it and snatched it away from me and read it in front of the class. And it was
Mm.
the story. It was the story. I think she was trying to embarrass me or something. I'm not sure. But the story was about a boy who like wanders into a crypt and sees a dead body rise out of the tomb. And so when she read it to the class, they were enthralled. Like
Wow.
my fellow classmates loved it. And so even if she was trying to humiliate me, I think that was my first taste of sort of writing for an audience. And I think that maybe is what hooked me on the whole writing experience. Was like, wow, I wrote this, at the time, I'm sure I thought it was a great story, but now I look back and it was probably a very dumb story.
Well, it was a
But
great story for its moment and the
exactly, it
audience. I
won. It
mean,
won over the audience,
yeah,
and I
I
think
mean, like
that
that's
was like
what storytelling is about, isn't it?
that was my first hit, I guess.
Yeah. First, your debut storytelling.
That's right. That's right. I've never had as appreciative an audience as I did that day in fourth grade.
Oh, right, right. Isn't that life though? I mean, like, you think you do something and you think it's fire, and then it has like a very small reception, but the folks that love it, the people that are your part of your tribe, they're like,
Yeah.
yes, this is fire. you know.
I do like to say that I have a very small but passionate fan base. And by small, I'm pretty sure it's just sort of my family and friends.
Hey, that I feel like is part of the publishing world
Yeah.
and writing. People say writing is like a solitary or not, I'm sorry, solitary. My
Yes.
tongue is tied. It's such a solitary endeavor, and most of the writers that I've met are introverts. I mean, like you doing this radio show, a lot of the writers would not feel comfortable talking about their work or much less having like a public conversation. And
Hmm.
so I think it's interesting though, because when we put it out there in the world,
Yes.
what do you think about
Um,
that, Nick? When you put it out there in the world and you're like, well, this is my baby, and I'm pushing the bird out of the nest.
right. It's nerve-wracking. I'm no introvert myself. I'm actually an extrovert. Though I grew up as an introvert. I was very shy, probably until I don't know, my mid-20s.
Hmm.
But the one thing I do still have trouble talking about is my work, and I think I think at some point in my upbringing, maybe it was sort of drilled into me that that talking about an accomplishment is akin to bragging.
Right,
And
right.
so I've been working very hard on trying to get over that.
Yeah, there's
But
a
you're right.
fine line between like sharing and saying, "Hey, world, check this out," and then look at me.
I know.
There's
I
a
know. I
real
think
fine line there.
we're all sort of twisted by social media now and think that
Can can
so
we?
much of self-promotion is look at me, but it's not. It's actually a very important thing that we need to do because there are so many books out there vying for people's attention. And when you release a new book, you just hope that maybe it gets the eyeballs that it deserves.
Well, you have a fantastic cover. Speaking of the new book, The Hungry Earth,
Oh yes.
I love
I,
this skull with
Thank
the
you. I love it so
mushrooms.
much.
I mean, like
It's
it's
a great
so
cover.
eerie and creepy.
Yes, they're growing out of the. For those who are just listening and don't have an image of the cover, it's a skull with mushrooms growing out of the
Well,
eyes.
let's fix that. They can play along at home. You can go to nicholaskaufman.com. It's
Hmm.
Nicholaskaufmann, double N, everybody, nn.com,
That's right.
nicholaskaufman.com, and it's right there at the top of the page. So you can look at the cover, which is just this fantastic, creepy, eerie, the hungry earth. I even like the gradient on the font. It looks very kind of
Yes.
like a sunrise on like a, I don't know it looks kind of like an earthy tone. I don't know. It's kind of like
Hmm.
a white, like almost like if the sun's glaring, a
Right.
little bit.
What it reminds me of is stone. It
Yeah,
looks like some
stone. That's
sun on
perfect.
stone.
Yeah.
I got to say that David Dodd at Crossroad Press did a fantastic job with the cover,
Oh yeah.
and my friend Aaron Rosenberg did a great job with the cover design. So it all came together really beautifully.
What does it feel like when you go through the process of, you write your draft, then you go through the editing, and then the book production, right? and then the publishing, and then you have the book launch. Like this book is coming out in a couple of days.
It's coming out in October, on October 5th. That's just a few days away. And you're actually my sort of debut interview on this.
Well, that is wonderful. I'm very proud to be part of that. That's so great.
I'm happy to do it with you.
We have a world premiere here, everybody. This is so cool.
Yeah. It's quite an experience, when you're drafting a novel.
Yeah.
It's very lonely. It's very solitary, as you were saying. And you don't know if it's working or not. Maybe a scene or the whole thing works for you, but you just don't know if it's going to work for other people. So, it's always good to get other eyes on it, like friends or your spouse or whoever. But there's a lot of going on faith when you're drafting a book, and you're just hoping that it works. And then, of course, you revise the hell out of it until it's readable, and then hope the publisher likes it. It's weird. I keep coming back to that word hope, but you do sort of keep hoping that it's good,
Mm-hmm.
And then you get your edits back, and again you're revising and you're revising. So when it finally comes out, you realize maybe a year or two has passed since you were first sitting in that chair thinking about whether this is going to work or not, and suddenly you have the finished book in your hand.
Mm.
It's a magical experience.
Yeah.
And there's no greater feeling, I think, for a writer than, getting that book for the first time, where you're like, I wrote this, and now it's an actual object that's going out into the world that people can buy and read and talk about. It's remarkable. It brings me back to that fourth grade classroom where my teacher read my story and everyone loved it. Like, it's that same feeling, except how many decades later?
I can remember in third and fourth grade, actually second grade was my first memory of writing like a little story or whatever. You remember the lined paper that we had?
Oh, sure.
It had like the blue and the red and all that. And
yeah.
We had like the mimeographed copies or whatever. And I had my second grade teacher. Her name was Mrs. Beasold, and she was a great teacher. We had her for everything. In a second grade, you have one teacher, right? And I remember doing art, like drawing, and that was like the first kind of time I remember drawing and writing like little stories. And
that's great.
Yeah, and then by third grade and fourth grade, I was sitting there writing little stories, and we were drawing. My friends and I, we would draw pictures and stuff like that. We'd make these little characters up, and it's crazy because when you're talking about publishing and writing, I think that is one of the joys. I feel like it's almost it's almost like a summation of everything. You put it out there, and you have this little relief.
Yeah,
and this excitement that goes along with it, and then the nervousness of like, how are people going to receive it or not receive it? What are people going to think? And then and then like talking about promoting, and also, is it going to sell books? Is it going to be something that people want to buy?
Right.
Not just get a reviewer copy and say thank you very much, to feed their reading habit, which is fine, which is cool. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people out there.
You do need those advanced reviews. You do need that buzz to build.
Yeah. No, the advanced reviews are different. I'm not talking about those folks. I'm talking about the folks that ask for like review copies later on.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
you're like, okay, what are you? I mean, like, you just want to read it, or are you going to actually leave a review?
Well, I'm not going to put down anyone who leaves a review.
Oh, reviewers are
because
great.
Boy, do we need them.
Oh, yeah.
We need them on Amazon, Goodreads. We need people to talk books up on their social media, their blogs, whatever they can do, because the real key to selling books is word of mouth.
Right.
From people that whose taste you respect, or who are trusted sources to you.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about those folks. I'm talking about the folks that just want a free copy.
Oh yeah, I mean they're out there too, obviously, and all you can do is hope that they really will review it.
Hmm.
Um,
Let me do the station ID real quick, Nick.
yep.
Everybody, you're tuning in today to the Adam Messer Show here on WRUU Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. Yeah, what I'm referring to is I've run a couple of those free promotion days,
Hmm.
and it's never really done anything for me. It's just been,
Is that with Valhalla Books?
yeah, with
Yeah.
my own stuff. And I've never had anything, but I've had better success, connecting with people one on one. Like someone
Yeah.
who's an actual reviewer or a reader, or just somebody that might be interested in the book. I've had a better connection with that, and I think that's kind of going around, chasing a long tail here, but the social media, you need it, and we do need that for getting our work out there. We don't have huge budgets, and you
It's
know
true, and it's sad but true because social media can be such a real pain in the
yeah.
behind.
Well, I think what's happened is we've almost and I say we is just in general. I feel
Hmm.
like we've almost kind of come around to become blind to some of the stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
if you see, like, if you hear a commercial too many times, or if you see something, you just tune it out, right?
Yeah, true enough.
And I think that's the thing for me that I've noticed, that nothing, there's no magic bullet, you know.
Hmm.
It's just doing stuff like this. So, we're on the radio show talking about your book and all, and getting
It's
out there
true.
and just connecting with people. And I feel like that is so important. Like, I've been thinking a lot about this lately, Nick. I feel like that's so much more important. Like, I don't have a huge audience, but the people
Hmm.
that do like my stuff, when you're talking about like your friends and family, or your main audience,
I
for
mean,
me,
I was exaggerating a little bit, but yeah, I do feel like we do have small audiences sometimes.
yeah, I feel like that. I would, it kind of like the indie record store. Like the
Hmm.
underground indie
Hmm.
record store. Like, you go there, you're looking for, like, new music that nobody else has heard.
Right.
I kind of feel like that with with publishing. Like, I'm not really, I can't really be the big name out there on the shelves, but I can connect with people and share
Yes, and that's
good stories.
absolutely important. I've worked in book publicity before for major publishers. And as I like to say, if we knew what made a book a bestseller, we'd make every book a bestseller.
Right.
Every book would be a bestseller.
Right.
So really, all you can do is just sort of hope that people read it, enjoy it, and talk it up with their friends. So, for those of you who are listening out there, if you love a book, be sure to talk about it with your friends.
And I think talking about that is so important too, because, like, video is king. Like, everybody loves videos, right? They love these little
Yeah,
videos and whatever,
yeah,
um, and I see that when it's something like, that's really catchy, that like these memes or these videos that catch on. It's like, hey, Nick, did you see that video, or did you or you
right,
send it to your friends and stuff like that. But I don't think
right.
people do that so much with books,
And I
right?
wish they would.
Yeah, it just
People
and
don't talk about books as much as any other form. I see people talking all the time about new music, new movies,
yeah.
but when you talk about new books, it's a much smaller amount of people get involved in the conversation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's almost like, I know a lot of readers. I know a lot of people who are readers, but then, I don't know as many people who read horror, first of all, or
Hmm.
sci-fi or fantasy, that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
then even within that, like, different readers, like, there have been people I've talked to that they're like, I'm like, hey, do you like, for example, do you like vampires? Yeah.
Hmm.
But they only like a certain, kind of genre of vampires, right?
Right, of
and
course.
and so, but you never know until you talk to folks about it, right?
True.
So what has your experience been with, like, because you got a nice career going with your writing and getting
Thank
out
you.
there, and what's your experience been like over the years, like if you went back to 20 years ago, and you were able to say, hey, Nick, this is something that I would really say you should think about and focus on. What would that be for your author career, your writing career?
That's an excellent question. It's funny. I remember when I made my first short story sale back in 2000, and it was to a professional market. I think I got somewhere between 5 and 8 cents a word. And I was like, this is going to be a snap.
Oh wow.
Like this is going to be, this writing career thing is going to be a cinch. I'm going to be rolling in dough. And
Oh
I'm
wow.
going to have, all this stuff. And obviously that is not the case. So I wish, if I could go back and talk to myself 20 years ago, I would say, have patience. Really, have patience. You're going to get rejected a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. Years ago, my father, when he was alive, he worked in the leather business,
Oh wow.
and he gave me a gift once of this beautiful leather, like magnetic clasp leather envelope, 8.5 by 11 size, And I told my older brother, I'm going to use this to store my rejections. This was when I was just starting out as a writer, and he said it's not big enough. And
Oh.
I was like, you jerk, because I thought, he was just ribbing me,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
he was
He didn't
absolutely
know how
right.
truthful it was,
He did
right?
not know how truthful that bit of ribbing was.
Oh wow.
So that's the advice I give to myself 20 years ago, and to any new and aspiring writer out there who just happens to be listening. Be patient. Give yourself time to really work on your craft. Nothing's going to be perfect out of the gate, whether it's your first novel or your 15th novel. It all takes work and time, and you got to just be patient. And I would also caution people not to get into this business thinking it's going to make them a lot of money. It's
That's so
really,
true.
it's unfortunately that's not the case. I know that we see movies and TV shows where someone is a writer, and their publisher is throwing them a lavish book launch party at some very expensive, very elite New York restaurant or something. It's not like that for most writers at all.
Mm-hmm.
Most writers get a very small advance.
If
They
any.
don't get, they don't get much of a push from their publisher,
If any.
um, if any.
Other than
Uh,
like a web page.
right, or not to speak ill of a publisher that I've
Oh
worked
no, we're
with.
not talking L, just talking truths.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd
I
have to cut your
actually.
mic off, Nick, if you said something bad. I'd be like, no, this is not representative of the Adam Messer show. And then we'd talk after, we'd talk about it later, but it would just wouldn't be on air.
Let's just say I've been disappointed in some major publishers and how they have not really done much to
Oh,
publicize or market my work.
I have a story about that. And no names. Obviously, we don't want to talk
Okay.
names. And I'm
Okay.
just going to say it was a traditional publishing house. But I know an author that secured their first traditional publishing book deal. Ecstatic. One of the first things that the traditional publishing house, and I'm saying traditional publishing house, I keep saying traditional publishing house to distinguish like the
Yes.
market, okay, everybody. And I'm not, I mean, like, obviously, Nick, I don't have the tenure that you have in the field. I'm new. I'm still a new author. I'm still a new publisher. I'm still learning the business. My background is in business and leadership, so I'm picking it up pretty quickly.
That's great.
Because I'm able to segue some of those skill sets that I have. But yeah, one of my friends got a book deal, had a book deal with a publishing house, and zero upfront royalties, zero marketing and advertising money, zero anything other than a bookmark page on their website, and
Wait,
obviously
this was a traditional publishing house, and there was no advance at all.
none.
Whoa.
Yeah, and no advance, no anything. Now, of course, they had the name behind the publishing house or whatever.
Yeah.
But one of the first things that they wanted to know was like how big was their audience. They
Right.
wanted to know like because they're taking a gamble, they're taking a risk by printing these books, right?
Yeah.
And they're gambling on how many books they think that this person will sell. And if it meets a certain threshold, then they're going to go with it. If it doesn't, then it gets rejected and so on. And
Man.
so,
Well.
the thing about like with this is that there is that still Hollywood, and especially back in the day, not so much today, but back in the day, it was like, oh, you could be an author and the Hollywood glam. And there are still a few of those folks hanging around. And there are some, people that, that get pushed up into the market, much like music and entertainment and other industries. A lot of that is just is orchestrated. It's not so much like, hey, Adam, you've got this wonderful book and it's going to just catch on fire. The folks that like the Martian, I think Andy Weir, those
Yeah.
when they're out there, those are like the diamond in the rough that they're out there pushing
Oh
their own
yeah.
books, and then
Oh
they
yeah.
transition into that. That's like the Hollywood dream, right?
Right.
But for 99.9999999 infinity% of the rest of us, it is like you're out there, your blood, your sweat, your tears, your time. Like Nick, this is the most work I've ever done for the least amount of pay in my life.
Oh right.
But it's
Yeah. No
also
doubt.
one of the most rewarding
They say
tests I've ever done.
you'll never work harder than for when you're your own boss.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and that's true. And it's also true what you were saying before about publishers. Like the word they use in the industry is platform. How big is the
right,
author's
right,
platform? And what
right.
they mean by that is what is their reach in terms of social media or followers or what
How many
have you.
people are already reading your stuff now?
Right. And if it's your first novel, I mean, you don't have a platform
Right, right.
unless you're, you were on TV for something else, then you have a platform. So
And that's another thing. You just opened up another thing. Please go
oh
on.
goodness.
I want to talk about that too. Talk about voice acting. I want to talk about voice acting with that.
Are you a voice actor?
No, but I saw this thing posted by like an indie voice actor or a small voice actor. I say small, a
Yeah.
new voice actor
Yeah,
who was
yeah.
talking about these. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to do that.
Sure.
But these big
Sure.
companies, when they have these productions, they go for these big stars because first of all their voices are already recognized, and then they
Yeah.
play these characters, in these movies, and there's not really a lot of room for anyone new to get into a
Right.
production.
I understand that. Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
it's the
Like,
same thing with like when you're talking about like someone who's already, if they're already famous and they want to write, like let's just say they want to write a book about butterflies. Well, guess what?
it'll
That
get
book,
done.
yeah, that book's going to get done.
That book's going to get done, and they're going to put
It's
their
going to be ahead of
marketing
everybody
machines
else's stuff.
behind it. They're
Right.
going to say, "Well, we're going to get you on the Today Show talking about butterflies. We're going
Yeah.
to get you a feature article in Vanity Fair
We have a
magazine
book
talking about
tour and
butterflies."
yeah. That's the machine.
Yeah, absolutely. And most authors, myself included, don't get that machine. We just
No,
don't.
we don't.
There are plenty of great authors out there who really have earned it.
Oh yeah.
I could think of folks like Paul Tremblay or Josh Mailerman or Kelly Link. These are people who have really earned their place, in the stratosphere
Hmm.
of publishing and
Jonathan
writing.
Mayberry is another one I think of.
Mayberry, yes, absolutely. I don't
I
think
mean,
anyone works harder than Jonathan Mayberry.
that guy, and he's so humble. Like he is so down to earth and humble. He was on the show too, and
Hmm.
but I joined his writers' coffee house, and
Great.
you talk about a guy is still in the trenches. Like
Yeah,
he talks to people every day. He gives he helps people every day, and he writes. And
I
then
know.
I'm like, wow, this is if I were to pick like a model or a mentor of like what I would want to be like, it would be like Jonathan Mayberry.
I feel like Jonathan Mayberry's day has more than 24 hours in it.
I think
You know what I mean?
I
Like,
think he
how does he
stretches time. Yeah, he
how does he
does.
do this? He's cranking out novels in record amount of time. I know he probably writes 3 to 4 novels a year. I
And
wish I could do that.
he does these coffee house these ask me anything. He talks to new Rob. I know for a fact that and I'm sure you do too, but that he gets the same questions over and over and over again because they're new
Sure,
people getting into the industry. They don't know sometimes they don't even
absolutely.
know what questions to ask, right?
Oh
So
yeah, and I've been there.
we've got a break. It's already 3:30, Nick. Wow, it's already been half
Mhm.
an hour. We got to do the station break. Everybody, you're tuning in today, and my special guest is author Nicholas Kaufman. Am I saying it right, Nick?
Yes, you are.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
thank
I
you. I
want to make
appreciate
sure I
it.
was saying it right because I'm used to saying Kaufman, but it's Kaufman.
It is.
It's just like
Yes,
my
I
last
know
name
it's
is
weird.
Messer, Messer, but I've been called Messer, Metzler, Metzner. I'm like, call me anything you want, just don't call me late for dinner.
Right.
So everybody, stay tuned. We're going to be right back. We've got some important station announcements. Our fall pledge drive is starting, and so I want to share that with you. And please listen to this by Tom.
How long have you been listening to WRUU? If you are a longtime listener and haven't supported us with a financial gift, now is your time to give us your support. We won't ask you any questions. Our forgiveness is unlimited. You should know that you will be supporting this all-volunteer community radio station because you enjoy it, and scores of volunteers donate hundreds of hours each week to make it possible. Other listeners are sharing the burden of paying for the station's radio expenses, so why not you? It's quick and easy, and the amount is up to you. If you have just started listening, welcome to the WRUU family of listeners. And now you can start listening with a clear conscience. Whether you've been listening a few days or a few years, please donate, and thank you for your support of WRUU 107.5 FM.
Okay, so I want to talk about my experience with the station here for about a minute. I've been with the station. This is my third year. July. Bass. It was like what, July, June. It was June of 2018. I think it was.
Started?
Yeah, like three.
I think so.
Yeah.
Around that time.
So, and we're all volunteers here. WRUU is a non-profit, FCC regulated radio station. We don't get paid for our time here. I do it because I love it. I love being able to talk to folks like Nick and the other guests who have been on my show. And my show is 2 hours a week, which is about 8 hours a month, just in airtime. But there's also a lot of time that goes involved into, like Nick and I have been talking for, I don't know, like a month or two, getting this, set up and all. And, not that we spent a ton of time, but, just getting prep work, And so one of the things I love about doing is this radio show, being able to, have something out there that, not everybody can do and not everybody is doing. And it gives me a chance to use talking about platforms, Nick, but it gives me a chance to use my platform to help other artists and authors, musicians, actors, people who are out there doing their thing and they're trying to, get the word out there. So if you have enjoyed WRUU, this show or the other shows that we have, I love the Savannah at Night show with Bill Cooper and Chad Carvel and the gang. They just wrapped up their final show last week. They did over 4 years of that program. And so I feel like if you do like our programming and you have been listening to our programming and you have some discretionary funds, even if it's $1, you can go onto WRU.org. You can make the donate button right there. You just click on it and it will take you right through and it'll take your donation. If you are able to donate a larger amount, that's wonderful too. We've had some people, I had one guest, and I'm not going to name names, but I had one guest that made a $200 donation to the radio station, and out of the blue, I didn't even ask. They just went onto the website, saw the donate button, and gave $200. And I was like, wow, that blew me away. But with the station, we do this because we love it. All of us do this because we love it. We wouldn't be on here doing these shows if we didn't have so much fun doing. I enjoy doing this show so much. And the reason why I'm talking about this versus playing another recorded message is because I just want to share with you, because it's going to go on the podcast. I just want to share with you, the audience, the listener, how much you mean to me. And, like Nick and I were talking about connecting with readers. It's the same thing with the radio show. I could not do this radio show. I could not be going into my 4th year of doing the radio show, which I never thought I would be doing a radio show. But I could not be going into my 4th year doing a radio show without you, the listener. It wouldn't happen. Like, if we didn't have people supporting the station, the lights wouldn't be on. We wouldn't have our license. We wouldn't have the building. We wouldn't have the equipment. We wouldn't have the microphone that I'm talking to you on without you and your support. And I know it might sound crazy, but even a $1 donation, if we had 2,000 people give just $1, we'd have enough to pay for our budget every month for the things that we have going on, right? Now, if we were a commercial radio station paying salaries and stuff like that, it would be a lot higher. And you'd hear advertising like every 5 to 10 minutes, like you do on other shows. And I'm not knocking them. I think it's great. I love listening to the radio and I love listening to talk and, shows and stuff like that. But one of the ways that we keep this non-commercial is through listener support. That's how we do it. That's how we keep these, mid-hour, little station breaks talking about this stuff. So that's my spiel. Thank you very much for tuning in and making the consideration. And even if you can't do it today, if you can do it like whenever, just go on there and check it out. So thanks a lot. Okay, so Nick, that's me talking about WRUU. We're doing our fall pledge drive, which I just found out that this week, and of course, with the pandemic and stuff, just like everywhere else, we have not been able to get our in-person events, which is usually where we do a lot of our fundraising. So that's one of the big things about the pledge drive is that it helps pay for the programming. It helps pay for like all of our stuff. So, and I think it's pretty cool, being part of the radio station. I know it sounds weird, but there's a lot of talk radio out there, but and there's a bazillion podcasts out there. I know that. But I think it's really cool to be able to do this show and talk with different people like yourself, about like what you're working on, and then stuff we have in common, and different things. Like, it's kind of neat to listen to you talk about some of the stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm dealing with that problem too. And that's kind of an aggravation for me too. Like, what?
Well, let me take a minute to congratulate you on almost 4 years of doing this radio show. That's fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I'm going to go ahead and donate when we're done talking. I'm going to go to the website. And
oh man, you don't have to do that, but I mean, appreciate it. But yeah, I wasn't trying to proposition you to do a donation, but thank you.
Please forgive me if it's not the $200.
No, don't. If you give, even if you give $1, man, I'll be honored. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm always tickled when somebody. Let me ask you this, because this is exactly how I feel right now about when people read my books. Like, you talking about giving a donation to WRUU, you're doing that out of the kindness of your heart, as a gesture to be, kind to me, and like, I feel like that when somebody reads my books. Do you feel the same way? Do you get that that giddiness, like that feeling, like, oh man, I can't believe that they were so cool to like read my book and they liked it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do understand that. Yes, I think.
Almost, it's not imposter syndrome, but it's kind of like in the same vein, like, oh my gosh, like, wow, kind of surprised or kind of taken aback, or.
I know it's always strange when I get a piece of fan mail that's not from somebody I know.
Now, I have not had a piece of fan mail yet.
I assure you, I get them very rarely. But I have gotten some emails from readers.
Oh wow!
Who wanted to reach out and let me know that they enjoyed my work, and want to know when the next book in the Trent series is coming out, which is the urban fantasy series I wrote a long time ago now. But it's always very nice because you know this as a writer and as just generally as a creative person, we do it very much on our own, and so we don't know. It's like shouting into the void sometimes. We don't know how something that we've written and published has been received.
Yeah, it does feel like you shout out in the void. It's like almost like you send that transmission out there in space, and you're like, are there any aliens out there who are going to reply?
And it's one thing to get a good review. Like you'll see, you get a good review and you feel great. Wow, it's been well received. But you want to hear from readers, because they're the ones who are actually buying your book, and they're the ones who are keeping you afloat through their interest in your work. And so it's so rare, but it's so welcome. I wish more readers would reach out to the authors that they love and say, I really enjoyed this book, because it means so much to us. I
tell you, and I know this sounds really funny, but with the time that we live in, right? Because I'm 45 and you're about the same age as like my dad's brothers would have been, so like my younger uncles, and we grew up on the tail end of the same generation, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm on the same era. We grew up coming out of high school with no computers, and then going into adulthood with computers and internet, and then smartphones, and then every technological advance. We grew up watching the not the space launch, like the Apollo 13 type thing, but watching, like the NASA launches in school, and
absolutely, there were a ton of launches of space shuttles.
And the Cold War, and all these different things. And when I was a kid, I read all the time. I mean, read all the time. I read every day now, but I don't read like I did when I was a kid. I had tons of free time then, right? I'd read a book a day back then.
Wow, well, I wish I could do that now.
Yeah, now I'm talking about like when I was like 13, 14 years old,
Yeah.
And but being able to reach, like, through just the internet, being able to reach out and talk to different people, like, this show would not have happened 20 years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
I wouldn't have been able to talk with, folks like you. You've won a Bram Stoker Award. You were a Shirley Jackson Award finalist. This wouldn't have happened 20 years ago for me. I mean, and I not joking or anything like that, but like, you could not have, had access to people without the internet like that.
It's true. If back then, if you wanted to reach out to a writer that you loved, you had to find an address. You had to
talk to the publicist or the manager.
Yeah. Right. You had to write it out, put a stamp on it, put it in the mail, and hope it arrived.
Yeah. And then, heaven forbid, that they actually have the time to be able to, talk with you.
Right. I mean, it's a much different world now where, Peter Straub is one of my favorite authors, and I'm lucky that I have met him on numerous occasions and we're friendly acquaintances. But if I wanted to say, hey, Peter, I absolutely loved your latest book, it's a snap. It's a snap. I know I have his, I could email him, I could just message him on Facebook, I could put it on his wall on Facebook, what have you. Mm-hmm. It's a completely new world in terms of reaching out to authors, and I guess I'd just love to see more readers do that.
I think that's something that they need to know. I really do, because I feel like that's something that they don't know and understand, or they might feel like, oh well, they won't reply to me, or they why,
or they worry that they're being intrusive somehow, right? Or like nobody wants to hear from me, but it's not true. We do want to hear from you.
I mean, nobody wants that fan. Like the movie with Robert De Niro, The Fan. Nobody wants that, or The Misery, Nobody wants that psycho type, fan. So if you're,
I mean, if you just write a note saying, hey, I really enjoyed your latest book. Good job.
Yeah.
Like, that's not being a psycho fan at all. That's really touching.
No. I mean, I think that's wonderful. Yeah. So that's cool too, because like I do have some people who follow my stuff, and
that's great.
And I really, they give me good feedback on different things and whatever, and I always enjoy that that connection. I haven't really had folks that I don't know yet. I mean, like maybe one or two kind of reached out to me. It's weird, Nick, because I get people that message me about like the show or something like that, or or that they'll find that I'm a small print publisher, and they'll message me about like a story idea or something like that. Even though I have on my website, I'm not taking solicitations right now. No openings.
Right. Nobody listens to that.
Right. And so I'll get those from time to time. But as far as it's so weird, because this year I relaunched because I started the publishing thing. I relaunched my series, and I finished the third book in my series, and I put it out there.
Congratulations!
And thank you very much. And writing the book, getting it out there, relaunching it under the publishing house, because originally I self-published. Now, this publishing house, we have like 6 authors, so I was like, I want to put this out with the new publishing house. And originally I had not a ton of reviews, but I have not had really that many reviews at all putting it out there again. And it's so crazy, because I feel like, going back to kind of circling back around to connecting with the readers, I feel like that there are a lot of people out there who they enjoy reading, and they enjoy checking out their favorite author, or they're like you said, they're looking for that when's the next book coming out of your series that you did, and those are the folks that I'm looking for. Those are the folks. Like I really, and I know I was talking earlier about those the free book giveaways that kind of just were dead end to me, but still at the same time I'm like, well, I do that. I put those free books out there, or I'll send out review copies to 40 something people who they want a review copy for an award nomination or something like that. Right. And that those folks are either they just it's like they have enough interest that they want the book, but you don't know what's going on in their life, and you don't know what's going to happen with them, if they're going to read it or not. And I know that's like part of the equation. Like, you got to put it out there. If you don't ever send it out, then it's a no. It's a zero, right?
Yes.
So I've kind of let go of that expectation of getting anything in return at all. I've just let that go recently, because I was a little irked about it at first. I was like,
of course.
And you can't. I mean, like, for me, I took it a little personally, because I was like, well, why would you ask me for a copy of the book? I send it to you, and then you don't do anything with it. It's
right.
But then I thought, well, just like I said, I don't know what's going on in their life. I don't know what they've got going on. They might still have it in their interest of wanting to read it, but if they're like me, they probably have 5 or 10 books ahead of it.
Oh, probably maybe more if they're like me. My to be read piles are enormous.
Yeah, and so for me now, because time is so precious and so limited, I really have to have an interest and a desire to read that book.
Mm-hmm.
To get it read. And that's one of the things, like, for me, that letting it go and getting kind of a little reality check for myself.
Yeah.
Because it was like an ego thing, I guess. But it's not
wrong to have an expectation, but yeah, I think letting go of expectation is always a good thing. It's very Zen, isn't it? To all suffering comes from desire, right? So if you have no desires, there's no suffering. But I do think you have circling back to we were talking about platforms before. I do think your radio show is an excellent platform, not just for me, but for your work as well. And I would also recommend, once you're feeling safe and the pandemic maybe is less strong, getting out there and hitting some local shows. Like, if you could get to Scares That Care in Williamsburg, Virginia, that is a show where it's first of all, it's a charity weekend, so everybody who buys tickets, that money is going to great causes. But it's all horror stuff. There are a lot of writers who go there, and the attendees of that convention are there to buy. They're there to buy books and works of art and get signatures from celebrities. So if you could get yourself a table there, I bet that would start spreading the word really well about your publishing house and your own writing.
And I appreciate that so much, because I tell you what, I know it sounds really crazy, but talking about that promotion type stuff or whatever, I have intentionally not been talking about the name of my company or the books on purpose.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Just because, I don't want it to overshadow. I like to talk about the process, and we're talking about the the books and stuff, but I don't want to overshadow I don't want it to sound like I'm plugging my stuff the whole time, right?
Absolutely. You don't want to use community radio as an advertising platform.
No.
I understand that completely.
But at the same time, you do want to talk about it, and you do want to get it out there. Like with your, you got the Hungry Earth coming out, Tuesday.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of work that went into that book.
You're telling me.
Well, I'm just saying, you can tell, I felt like, and I love the idea that, and I'll definitely have to get that info from you after the show or whatever.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
But when we're talking about getting out there, so I have hosted author conventions since 2016, book conventions.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. That's
no.
great.
I know we're just getting to know each other, but I've also hosted this event called Books and Brews Savannah, which we are fundraiser for the Ronald McDonald Charities of the Coastal Empire. And we, every year since 2018, what we've done is we've gotten together, authors gotten together, and we work with a local. The last one we did was at the Front Porch in Pooler, which is a coffee shop. Before that, we were with Southbound Brewing Company, and so we've done events like that, but I haven't done any major like big book events,
Yeah.
And so I've got some friends that they do this one up in North Carolina every year, and that's one of the ones. But with the pandemic, and then also I've got some other personal stuff that I do that right now is preventing me from traveling until I'm finished with it. But that is, I feel like that would work because, connecting with people face to face, or, connecting with
Absolutely.
people, like us talking on the radio. I mean, like this is the first time Nick and I have talked. We're getting to know each other while y'all are listening to us getting to know each other and getting to know.
That's true. We've
both of
only
us.
talked by email before. I've never heard your voice before now.
But and vice versa, and I feel like I think, Nick, that is like the thing. Like I don't, I really would love to sell books. Don't get me wrong. I love to sell a lot of books, but I would take this over that any day of the week. I would take a solid,
lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd take a solid person over any kind of social media stuff any day of the week.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
And I really appreciate the fact that you would talk about the stuff that that works for you and what doesn't work for you, because some people, I know it sounds really crazy, y'all, but some people they don't want to share like anything. They don't want to talk about like stuff that they're doing, and or like some of the overcoming some of the obstacles or whatever.
It can be tough. I have a blog feature on my website called The Scariest Part, and I'd actually love to have you on sometime as a guest blogger.
Oh, we're doing it. Let's do it.
Okay, good. But it's sort of an open idea of what authors can talk about. They can talk about the scariest part of the book itself, like this scene was really scary, or they can talk about what was scary about writing it in terms of overcoming perhaps some personal issue or difficulty.
Do you mean like putting a lot of work into publishing a book and then only selling 2 copies? Is that something?
Yes, but also sometimes things that are even deeper.
Right.
And you would be surprised at how many people have actually opened up in these blogs.
Oh, wow. I have to check it out. I'm looking at it right now on your website.
Yeah. I remember there was one author. Oh gosh, what was he talking about? The story he wrote was about, or at least it contained an abusive relationship. And the author wrote in his blog entry about how he was drawing on his own past experience, being in an abusive relationship. And it was raw, and it was vulnerable, and you're right, it's not something we normally hear, because people, when they are promoting their work, they want to sort of, they put on a happy face, and they want to talk about how exciting and great everything is. And I don't blame them for that at all. But it was amazing that some of these authors really did open up, and it's so rare.
Well, I think you connect with somebody more, because we're all used to the mask of, and I think when people are really raw and gritty, I'm not saying being ruthless or dark. I'm just saying just being open and vulnerable.
Exactly.
There's a different kind of feeling to that than when you get somebody who's just, the whole shtick is, hey, did you buy my book yet? Hey, did you buy my book yet? Because that gets old really quick.
Like, I'd love to sit here and just be a cheerleader for writing, and I do love writing. And I'd love to be just like, if you want to write, you should definitely write and get into it and all this stuff. But it is hard work, and there's a lot of sorry, hold on just a moment. There's a very loud helicopter passing my window.
Oh, no worries. Actually, that's a good point. We got to segue to the next hour, Nick. So, Sebastian, you mind playing us out? Everybody, you are tuning in today, listening to the Adam Messer Show here on WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. Now, Nicholas Kaufman, his website is NicholasKaufmann.com. He has this new book coming out. Oh gosh, golly, hold on one second. It's The Hungry Earth. My bad. I had a brain cramp. The Hungry Earth is coming out on Tuesday, October the 5th. You can check it out on his website, and of course, where all books are sold. Stay tuned, because we're going to come back at the 4 o'clock hour, and Nick and I are going to continue that chat. So, Bass, you want to play us out?